Good morning to you. Well, Romans 4, what a chapter. All about Abraham. And I think today we'll put a little pause in our Romans adventure, and I'll encourage you to read Genesis chapter 15, which gives you the story to which chapter 4 of Romans is referring, when Abraham believed God and it was reckoned to him for righteousness, as righteousness. It wasn't what he did, it was what he believed. And I've been thinking about Abraham, and really to understand Abraham, you need to look at his story and think about his story. And you might go a couple of chapters further forward. I think it's about Genesis chapter 17, when the child Isaac is born. And it is something like at least 14 years between when God promised that he would give him a son through his wife Sarah, that child was born. So he believed God for a number of years before it all happened. But what I was thinking about was how Abraham, in a strange sense, now stay with me while I'm thinking this through, is very like a Gentile, because he was not born into a nation that had a covenant with God. He was an individual whose family believed in God. His father had some faith, Hebrews tells us that, while they were over in Ur of the Chaldees. And he moved with his father across to Haran, and then when his father died, God called him to come to, or go to, the land of Canaan and settle there. But Abram, as he was there before he became Abraham, had faith in God. He had come to faith in God without the law. The law was given to the nation of Israel when Moses led them through the wilderness, and that was hundreds of years after Abraham died. So Abraham did not have a law. He did not have circumcision until after he came to faith. And God asked him to use circumcision as a sign of those who belonged to him and of his faith in God. So he was not circumcised when he put his faith in God and when God gave him a promise that he believed. No, he wasn't. He was more like a Gentile than he was like a Jew, because he was a forefather of the Jews. Hundreds of years later, the nation was formed. Hundreds of years later, there was an identity through the law and a pattern of worship through the giving of the rules and regulations and the design for the tabernacle. None of that existed in Abraham's time. He predated it all. So in a sense, he was very like the Gentiles. He came to faith as an individual through his experiences of life and through meeting God, through, perhaps, I don't know, seeing God, the creator of all things, coming to know him, and his faith journey. He got to know God. We don't know actually how he got to know God, but he was not born of Jew. He predates all of that thinking. So it's very interesting to think about Abraham as an example of faith, because he had nothing. He couldn't say to anyone, well, of course I've got faith. I was born into this particular group of people that identify God as their God. It wasn't there. So it's very interesting as you think about Abraham. And also, as you think about this wonderful chapter, because it says it's all about wages. Verse 4 of chapter 4 of Romans. Now to one who works, his wages are not reckoned as a gift, but as his due. And that's quite true. You know, if you're earning wages, you earn what you're due because of the work that you do. But verse 5 says, and to one who does not work but trusts him who justifies the ungodly, his faith is reckoned as righteousness. So he's talking about money again, about earnings. And it's like he's got a bank account in front of him. And think back to the days when they had a ledger, and on one side they would put the credits and on the other side they would put the debits. And this term, reckoned to him as righteousness, is an accounting term. It's about putting something on his account. So there's his wages, there's his outgoings, and suddenly there appears this gift onto his account, which is righteousness. It was reckoned, it was added to his account without him ever earning it. It's a wonderful thought, that this is what Paul is arguing, that for all of us this is what God does. Just as Abraham came to faith and gained his righteousness through a complete and utter gift of God in response to his faith, so we have our righteousness given to us, reckoned to us, put on our side as a plus factor, not a debit. The debit would be the wages of sin, death, but the free gift of God is reckoned on our positive side, on our gain side, as a gift from God, something we can never earn, but something that goes on our account and counterbalances the wages for sin and wipes them out. It's the most wonderful accounting picture. If you've ever checked your own balance and seen what's in the red and what's in the black, this would be in the black, reckoned but not earned, given to us. So have a look at Abraham in Genesis 15 and think about Abraham and what a wonderful faith man he was, because he believed a promise of God that physically was impossible. He believed it without any evidence that God would do it. He just believed it because God said he would do it. It's wonderful. It's that kind of faith we need to have. The faith that believes first, because after all, if you only believe when you see the evidence, it's not really faith, is it? Anyway, have a great day, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.